Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Lemongrass Roots, where we try to talk about the latest innovations coming from SAP and how SAP customers can understand those and start to adopt them and get the benefits from them. Today's topic is around BTP. Many people have been talking about BTP as an enabler for SAP AI innovation and for Clean Core. And today very happy to say I've got a great guest on. Vivien Boche from SAP, who's a real expert in this area. So Vivien, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm excited to be here today. So within the SAP ecosystem, I've been working a lot with the business technology platform and actually just recently moved into a new role as head of customer and partner advocacy and product co-innovation for SAP Build, which is one part of the SAP business technology platform. So as part of this role, I'm really focusing on seeing how SAP Build aligns with our customers' priorities and their needs. And thereby I lead like co-innovation project with customers and partners where we translate, complex text things into great compelling stories and ensure that our product, gets the right input and feedback so that we bring it into the right space to kind of help address the priorities and needs of our customers. And I'm really excited today to talk about the wider picture, right? You mentioned already two hot topics, Clean Core and AI. So I'm ready to dive in.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's great. And again, thanks for joining. We're looking forward to this chat. So let's start from the top. Why is AI innovation and Clean Core important to SAP customers in your view? Why are they so excited about it?
Well, so I always love starting with the why, right? So, I mean, I think if we look into, let's take maybe Clean Core as a first concept, right? How did it all came about, right? So if we look back into where we were more in on-premise world, right, you directly could go into the standard software and, obviously build your customizations from there by changing things in the code and creating the Z transactions. And thereby, obviously, what we try to now, when we move more into a cloud world, that is not ideally where we would like to bring that to, because you ideally want to stay as close as possible to the standard software, and then actually, but still being able to build these uniquenesses, right? That brings you unique advantage out in your organization, in the market, being able to still build these. So what then happens is that you always still can consume the latest and greatest innovation on your standard software, but still have this uniqueness that you can build and plug that is really like what makes your business differentiate in the market. So basically, to sum up the why, you obviously want to accelerate with your innovations, right? You want to be on the latest and greatest in terms of all the new things that we're bringing out in the different standard softwares, but you also want to create your differentiator in the market. And ideally, with all of this, the software should work for you. It should make you shine in an effortless way.
It's really, it's certainly, I think we're on a bit of a brink of a whole new way of consuming SAP software. And I mean, what really gets me excited is the release schedule that the SAP S/4HANA public cloud has. A new update every quarter gets pushed out to all customers. I mean, that to me, as a way of running SAP, is so different to the way we've been doing it for the last 30 years that I think it's exciting, but also as you rightly say, it allows customers to get innovation faster, and all of the money SAP spends on innovation is things they can get access to much more easily.
And especially then also with that, right? I mean, we're building so many things now into these products, even also then if you're talking about the other point, right? AI, we embed AI so much into these products as well. So obviously, and this comes, with all of the, always with the newest upgrades. And I've had customers, talking to me that in the beginning they were a bit skeptical about really how much would they leverage these new innovations. And now their business side is coming like, okay, I heard this is coming. When are we going on to the new upgrade, right? So I think there's also something that's often underestimated with Clean Core is really like being able to consume the latest and greatest that is out there, and then again help you to use these newer features in your business, but also being able to bring these uniqueness in terms of creating, for example, extensions. Or I mean, if we talk about the Clean Core dimensions, there's obviously 5 different dimensions that we talk about. It's not only dimension, which is often actually a myth that it's only extensions, but I'm happy to talk also a bit more about these if you would like to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's look at that. So, obviously, I think most people today are starting to get an idea of the urgency here and why they want to start down this road of clean core. Certainly, SAP have been very clear about it in the last kind of 12 months that this is the, as they say, the new North Star. But let's talk about BTP and how that can help customers, move towards that journey. So you mentioned the 5 dimensions. So what are those 5 dimensions and how should customers think about this?
So let's start with the 5 clean core dimensions. We, of course, have extensibility, right? How do you build something that is an extension and add on, maybe even just a field extension or really a complete custom UI or an app or something? That is point number 1. How do you build this in a clean way? And there are various different methods, and I'm happy to go a bit more in detail because that's often one of the major topics that customers are interested in. Because obviously, if you're transitioning from, let's say, from an on-premise world into a cloud world, that's where a lot of the thought process goes in terms of how to bring these customizations in that we have existing in an on-premises environment now into a cloud environment. So first, extensions. Second one is data. So trying to keep your data clean, right? When you move into the cloud, you ideally take this time to look, in terms of what kind of data do you really actively use? Maybe which data do you need to archive and which data could you maybe also like repurpose to some extent? So there's a lot in terms of how to even get or keep also your data lean while you are in the cloud. So there's various different aspects with that as well. Then we have the third one, which is integrations. So trying to keep also a reliable integrations landscape, and ideally to connect to use the connection points through public available APIs and having these various different also newer formats for example like event-driven architecture, right, where we get informed, have a broker system where things get informed through a network. So these are kind of things where we're trying to also open up the customer space and move them into looking into how they can also consume their latest and greatest innovations around integrations. And then we have also the processes, so keeping the processes ideally as flexible as possible, right? Because if there's another market disruption, the last thing you want to do is that you kind of can't react to it. So there's also various ways of how to analyze processes and how to understand it and how to even like tweak them to if you need them to. And the fifth thing is around operations, like keeping the operations as effective and efficient as possible. So these are the 5 dimensions: extensibility, data, integration, processes, and operations. But I must say one of the major things is the extensibility. But I think one thing that we have not really quite defined in terms of what clean core exactly is. Mm-hmm. So I actually, in preparation for this, I thought I dig up this definition again. So let me just put it out there. So clean core is defined as an SAP S/4HANA cloud solution that is up to date, documented, unmodified, consistent, efficient, and has custom extensions decoupled from SAP source code. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think obviously it's a very long definition, but I think that again touches upon a couple of different things that I was mentioning within these 5 dimensions as well. And I think one of the major parts is again having these decoupling also the extensions from the source code, and they're different tier systems and how you're able to do this. But I think in general, if you think about clean core, one of the myths that I want to break here, that is only just extensions, these 5 different dimensions that you want to ideally look into.
No, I get it. And yeah, I mean, certainly you can visualize that as well. I mean, it's, while you may have dealt with your custom code, until you've also tidied up your data and your business processes, you're not really necessarily going to be aligned to be able to take changes in quickly and easily. So I think it's if we do look at some of these steps and how you start to achieve them with BTP, for example, AI. How can I use if I do either get to clean core or on my way to clean core, at what point can I start to use SAP's AI solutions?
Well, there's various different forms of how you can use it. So let me just break it down. One is, I think that one of the major pieces to understand with our business AI strategies that we have Joule now as the co-pilot on top of everything. So this is basically the way of how customers can interact, asking questions about reviewing my recent pay slips or understanding maybe in terms of when would be great things to in terms of what's the newest update around the different sales orders. Or, I mean, so it will be like it works already, and we're building more and more on top of it. It's just that you also holistically across our whole business suite are able to use it. So let's say you are in, let's say in our HR solution, you can also then, if you have the entitlements, and obviously it's also role specific, but if you're in this part of the software, you will also be able to ask other questions. So it might be related, let's say, more to your ERP system. So that is context aware in terms of like who you are, what you can do. So this is true in terms of the co-pilot that really helps to, as an interface, we always talk a bit about the smart person or the smart assistant next to you where you can ask all the questions. So these are things where we have rolled out Joule on various different parts already, and that helps the different way of how to engage and be basically the smart super worker. But with that, then we also go the next step, and that is where we embed AI directly into our applications. So, and when I say embed AI, it means think about, for example, like a little button where you say, oh, okay, maybe enhance this job description, or help me with this code generation. Or so there's like various different ways of how we can enhance certain processes, because we look at the processes on a holistic basis. We see, okay, that particular part makes sense to embed AI to, and again, make this process more productive and support the user in the ongoing tasks of what they need to do, because we look across, or like, I think now the 27 different industries that we have customers in this base, and also with the whole like understanding from over 50 years of experience. So this is where we really try to see, okay, where does it make sense to really embed AI directly into the solutions, into our cloud solutions? And then the other part is often, okay, Vivien just mentioned cloud solutions. Hey, if I'm not there in terms of cloud solutions, well, this is where, for example, the BTP can help. Because, I mean, let's say you're not there with your S4 HANA cloud, then okay, there's still different ways of how you can consume AI, because BTP has also various different tools of how you already can use AI. We have different AI services. We have a generative AI hub that basically brings all like leading large language models together in one place where you can access them in a secure way, so that you can, for example, build an application that uses these different AI parts. Obviously, when it comes to these parts, we talk more about custom AI, because what the BTP is, right, it gives you various different parts of how you can build something, right? Coming back a bit to the extension part, or to the integration, or to the data part. It gives you a lot of different tool sets on the hand that you can build something that is, again, unique to your business. And again, also here, you can obviously already use AI in that. And we do try to not only give you like, hey, we throw it over the tools and you just do it. We already try to give you already a lot of head starts by using pre-built content, for example, that's out there, by giving you a lot of the security and governance already that's built into the products. We help you with a lot of reference architectures, sample applications, different missions of how to get started, so step-by-step processes. So there's a lot around this to make this journey as easy as possible. And for example, there's a sample application around how to build a RAG, retrieval augmented generation models, right? So where you, for example, have then a chat interface where you can ground your business data. So obviously putting your business data somewhere that the large language model doesn't go and hallucinate, but actually takes the information from your model, from your data that you put down, which could be, for example, PDF documents or something else. And then it comes back with this particular answer. And we've put a complete sample application out with a reference architecture and so on. So your developers go, for example, go there and pick this up and do something. And actually Vodafone built a really interesting application around this for their financial division, to actually have exactly these references back, because people do not like to read over long documents and finding the right answer. So ideally ask if again, your person, maybe an LLM that can help you with the right answers, and even reference back of where it found that information. But yeah, just as a bit of a sneak peek, that there's just a summary. We have Joule as the kind of super kind of worker in your organization that can help you with answering a lot of those questions and navigate you through the different platforms. We have embedded AI capabilities where we directly embed things into, and you also have the possibility to build custom solutions with the business technology platform.
Fantastic. So basically, so if I was to play it back a little bit, what we're saying is that BTP allows you to organize things initially, so as you say, to take when you're ready, take the Z code out of your current ERP system into BTP build. Have all the data integrated through, I guess, BDC now, and DataSphere and some of the other products to be able to organize that data. Then to use something like Integration Suite to continue the integration back to S4 or wherever else in your landscape. And then on top of that, you've got an AI toolkit which allows you to use the access you've now got to data and process and via the SAP graph back into the different products to be able to orchestrate your own solutions, but also activate SAP AI solutions back in the main product.
Yeah.
So,
and I think one thing that I just want to also touch upon, because I love myth, things that I often hear in the market or when I talk to customers. Another myth that I want to break in here is in terms of the integration part, because I often hear, with these integration, you can only do SAP to SAP, or maybe just SAP to non-SAP. But I do want to also outline that we have a lot of connectors and pre-built things, again, trying to accelerate you. So you don't start from here. You actually can start from here on our called Business Accelerator Hub, right? Accelerating the business so that you even can also do non-SAP to non-SAP. And I think this is often a myth and a lot of people do not know about. And I just wanted to put it out there. That is a great website. Have a look around there, what's already out there, maybe what you can use and the different connectors that are available and so on.
Yeah, look, it's definitely something that's resonated with me in the last couple of years is that via BTP, SAP is now presenting an enterprise architecture, back to the business to say, look, this can be your global integration area, this can be your global data lake, this can be your global development platform and your global AI hub. And I do think that that puts SAP in a position that maybe some people hadn't expected to see. Where there was always an SAP world and a non-SAP world, it now seems that SAP through BTP is sort of positioned itself right at the center of that, to allow people to, take advantage of, not just, a single source of truth for the data, but, the proven security model SAP has, the proven UI capabilities, and as you say, that integration to non-SAP really does start to change people's perception of what SAP is in their organization.
Yeah. And I think maybe one thing to note here as well is that where, for example, like a guidance framework out there as well, right? It's in terms of, helping you to decide with the different decisions that you make, the different methodologies, the things that we recommend, because I know it can be sometimes a bit overwhelming. So that's why we have like various different categories. So if it's, for example, around a reference architectures again, or if you're a developer, or if you're an administrator, or if you're an architect, right? Understanding a bit, okay, what do I need to know? And then these different methodologies in terms of, for example, like it's extension or integration or data analytics methodologies. We all have these kind of different parts out there as well. If you just, Google SAP BTP guidance framework, this is where exactly you will find then the answers.
Well, that brings it on to, I suppose, next steps and how to get started. And you mentioned the Accelerator Hub, which is a website that SAP have, which gives you amazing visibility and transparency of how to integrate and use that. You already mentioned the framework, which I've seen myself and it's impressive. What is Discovery Center? Because I've played with that a bit. That's a phenomenal bit of software actually. But tell people about that. I think that everybody should know about Discovery Center.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you bring it up, because when you were talking about like, next steps and these two different websites I mentioned, I'm glad that you're mentioning Discovery Center, because I'm a huge fan. I call it, and this is no Vivien talking, right? But it's my BTP Bible, because I find everything on there, right? In terms of, first of all, what are even the different services, that's out there on the BTP. And I mean, I think it fluctuates sometimes, but it's like around 90 different parts, right? And I mean, I know we have like 5 different buckets within the BTP, but there are so many sub-services that you can use for your business. And so you can understand, first of all, the services, what it is, why to use it, who has used it, and what's the roadmap items, and more links. So this is just the services part. Then we have the whole missions, right? How to get started, step-by-step guides in terms of literally how to get started with BTP, how to get started, for example, in the integration or extensions. So step-by-step processes there. Third thing is reference architectures. If you do not know how to build it, that's where you would go. I mentioned the retrieval augmented generation scenario with the sample application. You will find everything there, so you can just like look this up. And lastly, we also have now added the business AI capabilities and features there, which you also can look for. So 4 buckets in terms of the services themselves, the missions, the step-by-step processes, the reference architectures, and the business AI features.
Fantastic. No, again, I would highly recommend that to everybody as well. I've spent a lot of time looking at that and very impressed with that output, and a great jump off point, as you say, into more detail. So I think, I think everybody's hopefully today, has heard some new ideas maybe, or at least confirmation of their understanding, but really importantly, how this is meant to fit together, because that to me is probably the new thing for quite a few SAP customers is to understand how these are complementary and it's part of a bigger positioning of SAP in the enterprise. So I think my takeaway is people need to study this. They need to spend time learning and understanding how this fits together. SAP have given plenty of collateral to help you along. Of course, there's partners like us who can help. SAP themselves have got a very strong enterprise architect team now that can help people get started with this. And then it's really up for people to start to lay out their own roadmaps, how they're going to get there. And I suppose we just finished with, from a customer point of view, just Vivien, have you seen you mentioned Vodafone as a good example. What can customers expect, if they adopt this in the next couple of years? What sort of outcomes have you seen that have been encouraging and certainly something that might motivate people who haven't started yet?
So I think I would like to just highlight 2 different customers. So let's maybe start where we started today, which was Clean Core. And if you, for example, type in Clean Core and then Hitachi. So Hitachi, this is I just want to read it. So Hitachi is a Japanese company, high-tech industry company, and they have been ongoing on their Clean Core journey, and it's really impressive to see what they have been able to achieve. I mean, just to go from the head, I think what was it, around over 9,000 ERP add-ons, and they decreased it to 500 plus. So I think this is just a lot what they have been doing in this landscape, and I think it's just really interesting how they even also leverage. And I know we didn't talk too much about it, but in terms of, for example, extensions, right, in one of the first pillars of Clean Core, you were able to build on stack, so directly within your S4 private instance, not public, but within there. And if you, for example, in both cases, you are still able to build also side by side with the business technology platform. And so that set is really interesting of how they have been undertaking this journey. So I would definitely highlight, check out Hitachi. And in terms of generative, retrieval augmented generation use cases, so this custom AI that I was talking about with the BTP, this is where I mentioned Vodafone, where they built it was really difficult for them in the beginning to understand some of the complex policies, including, there are various different local tax guidances and so on. I'm just looking at some of these. And so just understanding, okay, how they can simplify it and actually give this, have a 24/7 support, right? Not needing to rely on other people, but then instantly get questions, ask their questions and get them the feedback, and also where to find this in the policy document. So they build that as a chat interface where you can ask questions. So they use various different components from the SAP Business Technology platform, thereby, for example, building an application front end, right? Then storing the data in a vector engine on HANA Cloud. And then you connect it to our generative AI hub to get the access to the different large language models to actually then query and, get the answers to these, to prepare the answers to when they get them back. So it's just here again, good example for, hey, let's also build something that really works for us, that we are in need of, because we need to understand these better and even quicker. And you know that because these queries have been taking up a long time in their instances. So yes, so that's why it was like easier now to have the kind of, smart person who can help you with these queries, and you even know from where it's coming from and can guide you directly in this document. I think what I would do is I would just share the link to both of them. So you can maybe link them here, so people can read more about it. But yeah, I think just like 2 interesting customer stories that I would like to highlight, and definitely check them out.
Fantastic. Vivien, look, it's been a pleasure having you on. This has been a great chat, and I'm sure it's going to spark a lot of conversations among the listeners. So just remains me to say thank you very much for your time. And to everyone listening, thank you for your time. And click on those links that we'll connect at the bottom of this video. Thank you.